Hi, I'm Kate, and on this episode of Bite Size, we're exploring salt. We're 700 feet below surface in a salt mine, literally surrounded by salt. There's salt above me, I'm standing on salt, and even this entire wall is salt, and I can lick it. First up, a quick taste test between the salt from this mine and a refined table salt.
So in this shaker, I've got the mineral-rich salt on this side, and then this is a processed sea salt on this side. What we're gonna do is just put a little bit here on your hand. The first thing you're gonna notice is every bead is the same.
Right.
And then when you taste this, it's gonna be more crunchy.
Oh yeah.
And it's gonna be sharp.
Wow.
And now you're thirsty, where you weren't before.
Yeah, it's like immediate.
Now contrast that with this. And as you look at it, every crystal looks different. And it tastes like salt, right? And notice that you're not dying of thirst.
It's so much more pleasant.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
If you were to describe a tomato, like you've had a really fresh garden tomato, and if you'd never had one, and somebody tells you that you've got to taste a real one, you're like, oh, come on, how different? A tomato's a tomato.
Totally different.
Totally different than one in the grocery store.
All right, let's go straight to the source where we get this salt. It's hard to imagine looking at the landscape around me, but there is a gigantic salt deposit right underneath me. Given that I've never been in a salt mine before, I am so grateful that we have the expertise of Kyle.
I have 38 years now vested in the company. A lot of that time is spent as an underground miner. The company was established in 1958, and it was my grandpa, his brother, and my dad that started it.
Kyle, how big is the salt deposit?
So the salt, east and west, it's about 1,500 feet wide, and north and south is 2 miles.
So understanding why and how the salt deposit formed requires us to go back millions of years ago. Honestly, this place probably looked entirely different and we'd actually be underwater. That's right. 300 million years ago, a broad, shallow, tropical sea stretched across this entire region, covering what is now Utah. This body of water went through repeated cycles of flooding and evaporation, and each time salt and other minerals were left behind, resulting in layers of salt deposits.
This seabed covered all of Utah. If we went back to, Pangea time frame, this area was at sea level. So if we drilled down 5,000 feet right here, we would hit the deposit. It's unique that it just broke the surface right there in Redmond.
Or why that salt remained so close to the surface that was pushed up is because it's shielded or protected by a layer of bentonite clay.
Typically, any type of rain or surface water would dissolve the salt. Because of this volcanic ash, which is a bentonite clay layer that doesn't allow water to penetrate, has kept the salt from being dissolved from the surface.
So without the clay is like your key to both the existence of the deposit and kind of its uniqueness of how close it is to the surface.
A couple things. It kept it so close to the surface, it would probably be quite a bit deeper due to erosion. And then also possibly more contaminants or pollutants. So it protected it from all of that too.
Right.
Until current day.
Wow.
Here is one of the original open pits.
Open pit mining is one way we can extract minerals that are at the surface. This is no longer done at Redmond, but it's how they originally started.
You can definitely see from this location that contour line change that comes all the way across the pit here. And what is the darker color is salt from there down, and the overburden that sat on top of it is this gravel look that you can see above it.
So that literally is all salt.
Yes.
It's much redder.
Yeah. So a lot of the reason for that is because for years it's been exposed to the elements. Water washed a lot of the chlorides away, leaving the minerals.
We'll talk about this more, but one of the unique things about Redmond's salt is that it has tons of trace minerals, elements found in really, really small amounts. This is where the rocks get some of their unique colors.
Tour bus coming in south.
Back in the 70s, we were mining salt out in the elements of Utah, which is no fun in the wintertime. And it was essentially like a big hole in the ground about the size of an inside diamond of a baseball field, and getting rained on and snowed on. And my uncle thought, well, if we just tunnel into the wall, we're out of the elements. And so from then on, we've gone into room and pillar mining.
Yeah, this is where the underground started, and then as we drive through it is a continuation of mining over, through the years.
And so what level are we on?
We're on 2.
Okay.
We just started on 2. Tunnel shooting off here, that's a level 2 tunnel. Another one here that's a level 2 tunnel. And as we finish this turn and head back the other direction is another tunnel heading off on level 2. Currently we're 6 levels deep, so we are not at the deepest point, but you're a total of 700 feet straight vertical to get back out to daylight. So 700 feet straight down in the ground. We drove in about 2.5 miles winding down to this level. None of this is natural cave or cavern.
Okay.
It's a solid salt deposit, and the 28 miles has all been created through mining.
So like this would have been completely solid of
Correct.
salt.
Correct. Yep, completely solid. The tunnels that we're carving out for our industrial process is through a drill blast operation, and we average about 70 feet wide and 30 feet high. That's what you're standing in right here.
And then how big is the wall between the tunnels?
We leave about the same.
Okay.
So if we're going to mine about 70 feet wide, we're leaving a 78 to 80 foot thick pillar of salt between tunnels. That is to shore our structure. That's our support, our bearing walls to hold this up so that we don't have to ever worry about collapses. What's interesting about this deposit is geologists tell us it's Jurassic period. It's here because of an ancient sea. It's called the Sundance Sea that left this deposit here at sea level. So about 5,000 feet deeper than we are now is where this salt deposit was left. Fortunately for us and our business, sometime over the last several million years, that deposit got pushed to the surface and allows us to rock mine it from the surface in this fashion. And if you look at the lines in this face, they're leaning a little bit to the left, but they're pretty much running vertical. That's further proof that it's been pushed up, because originally these veins would lay horizontally instead of standing vertical. We get a lot of strength that you don't get in a lot of mining when the deposits lay horizontal. Liken it to the bearing walls in your house that support a lot of weight, same thing.
And so each one of those layers is like another layer of salt just built over the many years.
Built up over time, yeah.
But I guess when I'm saying it this way, it was really this way.
Correct.
And then it
changed. When we drill and blast, we're advancing this volume of 30 feet high and 70 feet wide. We're advancing 16 feet. He drilled out with a series of about 80 to 100 holes, all loaded up with a percentage of explosives. So we're doing one of these per shift, and we're doing 2 shifts a day. So we're averaging 2 of these daily. Annually ends up being real close to a mile. This was solid out to where we're standing before the last blast.
And is this what it kind of looks like after the blast?
This is just what's left of the last blast that we haven't picked up and hauled to the surface for crushing yet.
Wow.
Everywhere from fine up to some of these bigger pieces, and there will be pieces that are 10 by 10. This is where our mining method is different, because this is for culinary salt. We're selecting certain areas of the mine. What we will look for culinary salt is an area that tests about 98% chlorides, which this piece would be. The remaining 2% is a blend of just over 60 different sea minerals at trace amounts. And that's what makes up the color of it. You hear about pink salt or talk about pink salt. Ours naturally has a little bit of pink coloring to it. That is those sea minerals.
What tests do you do to make sure that you have like the good minerals?
Right, an area that we're going to mine for culinary salt, we will take samples of, take it to lab.
And then they'll do a full elemental assay on it. And it's interesting, over 20 years, Kyle can mine something and he'll say that's going to be about 98.5. and I'll send it to the lab and it's 98.5.
Are you assuming that like a sample from here is representative of a sample from there?
Yes.
How
Yeah.
much
So,
variability is
so
there
you
with
can
this?
kind of see it. I mean, you can't, because this is your first time in the mine, right? As a miner, 20 years of experience, I'm telling you, I can look at the area we're going to mine for culinary salt, and I can tell you within 0.25% what the lab test results will be. What I'm looking for is how translucent. If the percentage is too high,
Yeah.
it will not be translucent. We're finding places like that in this salt deposit, and then we're bringing in a big machine that we use to just grind it off the wall, so there is no blasting involved in our culinary product.
When producing food salt, the safety precautions are huge. So we were super excited when Kyle gave us a special tour of a food salt tunnel in action.
So the drum is actually on the end of that. It's up in the end of that stick.
Oh my God. Wow.
If we walk up here, that's what he's cutting off the wall.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so everything is just covered in like the...
In the dust.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because that grinding, it's like flour.
Oh.
That airborne dust that's settling.
Yeah.
That would be about the gradation of popcorn salt.
Okay. So like this is potentially usable.
Correct.
Okay. Wow. You have pieces like this to, let's say, like this to even just like the powder.
Correct.
Ooh, this is really pretty. And then you bring that up and you crush it
Correct.
in the circular grinder.
Yes.
And how long does it take to crush the 2 tons?
So the machine that we're using is pretty big.
Okay.
It will crush those 2 tons in about an hour. So 700 to 750,000 tons comes out of this mine annually. About 2,000 tons of that is culinary salt.
And then they go straight to the screening process.
Yes.
So in the mill, you'll have, these are big in the mill, and they're stacked like this. That would be coarse.
Okay.
And the next screen down would be just a little smaller, and that would make your kosher. Then the next screen down would be a little finer. That would be the granular or the fine, and the stuff that falls out the bottom would be the powder.
This would cycle back through the crusher and be crushed down further and then hit the screens again and be screened. And that process would just continue until it's all broke down to this size or smaller.
And how big are those screens? Obviously, these are really tiny.
Yeah, so the actual screens are probably about 6 feet by 12 feet. So the material's flowing onto them and they're shaking that 6 feet wide, and it's shaking down through that 12 feet of distance to
Oh.
the different sizes that it's stacked, you know, from the top
Yes.
to the bottom layer. There's about 4 screens in there.
Okay. The majority of salt produced at Redmond is used for industrial and agricultural use, like for road salt. The food salt is sent to a separate facility. Be sure to check out our second video to learn more about that.